Tyler Cody, and I want to talk to you today about conflict management. This is going to be from a manager's perspective. So this is better ways to effectively deal with conflict and how to make it productive for you. On average, 2 hours are lost every week to conflict, and that's a lot of money over a long period of time, and that's within a small team. So what I want to go with first is common workplace conflicts. So we often have a lack of synergy between teams. We have one team is relying on another in a large project. And what we need to do is get those two people or those two teams on the same page and depending on each other. So what we'll have a lot of times is a miscommunication would probably be about 60 to 70% of those cases where one person asks for something but it's actually delivered or expected in a different way from the other side. So often communication, frequent meetings, and clear, concise goals can alleviate those problems. Examples of being inefficient and not being cost effective would be when we simply try to let these things work themselves out and give it kind of a jungle mentality. Often what we see there is the problem never gets resolved. It will often come up again in other projects or other disputes in a similar manner. And then finally, conflict resolution is an integral part of being a manager. What you need to be able to do is redirect all of your employees into a better, more productive channel to put all of that time that they're wasting bickering at each other. So I have a couple ways that we can take care of that. The first one is create an open environment. If you're not clear that everyone can speak their mind without a harsh penalty or getting chided by their employees or other colleagues, that's going to cause problems. So creating an open environment where people feel free to share, whether it's with you in private or with the rest of the employees, you'll often be able to let these things actually resolve themselves if people openly communicate with each other. Secondly, set standards for communication. Do you prefer emails? Do you prefer phone calls? In person? I personally recommend emails as there's a traceable link back to every conversation that was had, albeit sometimes in person can add that extra touch to try to set the tone for the conversation instead of getting that cold, emotionless vibe from an email. And then lastly is, as a manager, be available. Telling people you're there for them and then always being in a meeting doesn't do them any good, because then they're going to stop trying to use you and start possibly causing conflicts on their own. So we know conflicts are unavoidable, but we shouldn't try to avoid them. We should try to embrace them and look at them as opportunities and challenges that we can go through and make our team better, make them more productive, and make them better at their job. So ask questions. Don't come swinging. A lot of managers will often think, I know how this goes, I know how Jeff behaves, and Jeff's going to do the same thing Jeff's always done. That's not always the case. Be objective, ask questions. Don't be opinionated when you come into it, be open-minded. Explain what we need to find out in order to solve the conflict. Often if you can redirect them from trying to make personal jabs if it gets to that point, and say that we have a common goal, we are a team, whether or not you're on the same specific team, but on this project, we're working towards a common goal. Show them that unity, and often, like a team mentality, you can get them to that point. And then non-confrontational question examples would be something along the lines of, why does that upset you, Jeff? Why are we talking about this, Jeff, when we were before discussing this? Examples such as that. Do not ever lead them into something. Do not use an incorrect tone that might cause a conflict. Negotiate. Talk about being objective and focusing on maintaining the relationship. So what you want to do is make sure that you're saying, look, I don't want to get involved with anything petty, and obviously you'd rephrase this, but I don't want to choose a side. I want everybody to get to a point where we can work together on this and get this done. And what you need to do is find a goal that meets both of their needs, not just one of their needs. Something that in a synergistic way brings them together and shows that they're both going to have to give up a little bit but compromise in the middle. Thereby, they're more likely to put their rage onto you and their unhappiness onto you in a slight way rather than not working together and being upset in general. And then manage their expectations. So when you give them options, don't say, what do you guys think is best? Give them things you think is reasonable that could solve their problems. Now, be open and listen if they have something that could add or contribute to that solution overall. But in general, if you set the tone and kind of give them a couple options, they're more likely to be related to that and come out more relevant. And then lastly, follow through. Most people have negative feelings about conflict after it's resolved because they feel they weren't listened to or their needs were not met. So if we go through the first two steps by being open and objective and then asking questions, we're showing we care and we're showing that we want to get to a solution that meets their needs. So when you say you're going to do something and you're going to make that compromise, be sure you're doing that. So the other 2 points that I have here are remove bitterness and change the focus to getting work done. The priority should not be being right or being correct or winning. We want them to say, look, it's unfortunate we got to this point. Let's get to this point now forward together. All right. In conclusion, conflict is an opportunity. It is not a challenge. This is a way that you can find out what's really bothering your team and what you can do to help them go forward. Often, if one person has a concern, more than one person has that same concern on that same team. Listen to your employees and you should be good to go. Thank you for your time.